He's still a $20 million quarterback.
Well, he gets paid $20 million, yes. Is he a $20 million talent? Absolutely not.
Not right now.
Absolutely not. And he hasn't been for a couple years. So this is why the Giants have the opportunity, or they're going to have the opportunity, unless they win 8 in a row, which we all know isn't going to happen. But they have the opportunity to get themselves a new franchise quarterback. And they have to do it. You know, it happened to Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. And it happens to every good quarterback in the league at some point that, all right, you know what, we need to move on. And we need to get the guy for the future. And the Giants may have thought or hoped that Davis Webb could be that guy when they picked him in the 3rd round last year. But you know what? I'd rather have a top 5 pick kind of talent,
right,
and go for that kind of player and say, all right, you're going to be my guy for the next 10 or 12 or 15 years, or at least you hope. You cross your fingers, because Mark Sanchez was supposed to be that guy, and
didn't happen.
15 years after Mark Sanchez gets picked, he's going to be sitting home in California surfing or something. But
he won't have any head injuries.
You need to make that pick, because those, like I said before, those kinds of picks don't come around very often, and you need, for the sake of the franchise, and even if that means cutting bait from Eli a year or two earlier than you planned on it, you need to make that move.
Well, I personally think that Eli will be like Peyton. He'll go to another team and
that's
probably
fine.
do good.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Either release him, or if you can get something for him or trade him, that's fine. But that contract is going to be very difficult to trade. So let him go, wish him well, and say thank you for your service.
Next week, this is going to be a great game.
What's that?
Giants 49ers.
Hey, the Giants should win that game.
They should.
All right, they should. Will they is the big question.
Will they is the question.
But that's a draft pick game right there.
It is. We're going to take a break right now. We haven't talked about the World Series, which ended last week. We're going to have Hal Bock.
Hal Bock,
who's covered 30 World Series in his lifetime for the Associated Press. He's also the author of a book, which we'll mention when we get back. And we give the phone number. We can. We have to talk to Hal.
Talk to Hal, and then we'll give the phone number.
And then we'll give the phone number. You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, streaming at podcasting at Spreaker.com. We are on the iHeartRadio app for streaming.
Okay. Yo.
Tell your friends about the Nassau Morning Madhouse. Hear what you're missing.
Check it out.
Now, what if Friday the 13th landed on Halloween?
That'd be.
It's happened before, hasn't it? Like at some point.
All right, we got to explain to Sam how days work. So stick around at 90.3
in life. Like, has it happened in our lifetime? Yes. Right.
Well, we explained to Sam dates. Stick around at 90.3 WHPC.
Nassau Morning Madhouse. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9. On the voice of Nassau Community College.
90.3 WHPC.
Do you like video games, movies, comics, action figures, anything nerdy? Well, have I got a deal for you. Tune in to 90.3 WHPC. Should I do that again?
Just keep going. Just continue.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. for the only radio show that covers all things nerd culture with the two most fantastic hosts in all of the galaxy, Colton Murray and Justin Greenberg. This show is out of this world galaxy. Come on down. Tune in Mondays at 3 p.m. Hey, why did my music stop? I can't do this acting without my music.
The promo's over. Stop talking. Just play the stupid tagline.
Nerdvana, Mondays at 3 p.m.
Cut it and print it. I need an aspirin.
Shake off the realities of the day, broaden your musical horizons, and embrace the diversity every Monday afternoon at 6 on Revelations. The show offers a potently unique collection of music with an emphasis on themes and rock rarities, an occasional tour de force of blues and soul, mixed with compelling sets of folk and folk rock. I'm Steve Kay, and I've got the perfect soundtrack for your drive home every Monday afternoon at 6 on Revelations, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
We're back here on From the Press Box here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm Rob Leonard. He's award-winning sports writer Tim Leonard. And on our phone with us, we've had him on a couple of times. We consider him a friend of the show. We have Hal Bock, who not only covered 30 years of World Series in his career working for the Associated Press. He's also the author of his latest book. He's had several, called Banned, Baseball's Blacklists of All-Stars and Also-Rans. We welcome back Hal Bock from the Press Box. Hello, Hal.
Good morning, Rob. Good to be with you.
Well, thank you for joining us again. We appreciate it. Well, we're going to talk about the World Series. I was talking to Timmy, and I said, we're going to talk about the World Series. Well, why don't we have on Hal Bock? I mean, he's been to these things, and he can bring a little history lesson to us along the way, too. So what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to let you and Timmy talk most of the time, but I want to bring up three things. Timmy won't like the third one, but the two things. First of all, Game 1.
Get ready, Hal.
Game 1, Hal, was maybe the shortest game I've ever seen, not just in a World Series, but in a baseball game recently, because every time I've gone to see the Mets, they've about a 3-hour game. Somehow, Game 1 was 2 hours and 28 minutes.
That was beautiful.
I was shocked.
Baseball. That's the kind of baseball I love, and it deteriorated after that. No other game in the series went less than 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, I'm watching Fox, and they're like scrambling to cover time for a half hour. I was like, wow, they're just standing on the field praying.
Just let A-Rod talk.
Not Big Poppy, Tim? So
Big Poppy got every game wrong.
I know.
Every game he got wrong.
Well,
it's amazing.
He's a big star. So anyway, that was my first thing. The second thing is Timmy's going to hate this, but Larry King wearing a Brooklyn hat. He's the Prince of Brooklyn. He's at the L.A. Dodgers game, and he's always claimed that Sandy Koufax was his buddy, but Sandy Koufax is sitting way on the other side of the arena.
That's for TV reasons.
Well, for whatever reasons. And the third one, I thought Game 5 was maybe one of the best games I've seen, at least in a World Series. It was a great offensive showcase is the best way to describe it. And I was wondering what you thought.
Well, it was an odd game. Let's put it that way.
We'll go with that.
Very.
10 innings, 13-12. Each team had 14 hits. I mean, you're exhausted at the end of that game, I prefer, my old school preference is low-scoring, tense games. This game was all over the place. I mean, you didn't know what was going to happen next, except that somebody was probably going to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hal, I described it. I was talking to people during the game, and it just seemed to me that it showcased how ineffective both teams' bullpens were.
They were burned out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long season, and modern baseball does not allow pitchers to go more than 6 innings, starting pitchers. So you're into the bullpen every night.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the season, when we play the World Series, your bullpens are burned out. They just don't have it anymore. And so you're parading pitchers out there who are going on, just on vapors. And it just leads to these kind of games where you have a game that ends up, 13-12.
Right.
To me, that's not a classic World Series game.
Really?
No,
you don't think so?
I agree. It was a very dramatic game, yes, without a doubt. But was it the kind of baseball that if you're a real baseball fan you want to watch? Not really. I didn't think it was an especially great game because it was to me it was more about the failure of the bullpens.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, so I guess I'm old school.
Good. Join the crowd.
Thanks, Hal.
You and me, pal.
Yeah, but that to me it was the only play that I felt good about, or the only home run that I felt good about was George Springer. Because it was the next inning after he made what I thought was a terrible decision to try to dive for that ball that I think it was Bellinger hit. It wound up being a triple, and a run or two runs scored there, and tied the game up. And then Springer I think led off the next inning and just obliterated. I don't know what the distance on that ball was, but it had to be about 460. He hit it over the train tracks. And
Springer had one of the oddest World Series you could have.
Oh yeah.
He struck out 4 times in Game 1.
Right.
Which is the golden sombrero in baseball.
Indeed.
It's something you never want to have. And after that, went on a tear, 5 home runs, and became the MVP of the World Series. So that's an odd turnaround.
To me, he was pretty much a no-brainer for MVP. But yeah, like you said, he couldn't have been worse in the first game, and then just got on a roll pretty much immediately, starting in Game 2.
They couldn't get him out.
No. So to me, that was why he was obviously a big reason why the Astros won.
Were you going for the Dodgers or the Astros? Not based on liking them, but based on who you thought was going to win.
Well, I thought the Dodgers had the best team. They started the season. What did they go 70-30? I think at the beginning of the season.
It was around there. Yeah,
I mean it was unbelievable.
Yeah, they were on a record-setting pace.
And then they suddenly went south, and they lost like 15 out of 16 games. That's why, to me, baseball is so unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And to me, that's one of the great attractions of the game. I know that analysts now, analytical baseball and formulas and equations, and I don't believe in any of that stuff. I just think the game is so unpredictable, you just don't know what's going to happen next. And to me, that's the attraction of the game, the lure of the game.
Yeah, I thought the Dodgers were going to win too. It's funny. I keep forgetting the Astros are in the American League now. I see them. Oh, they're in the.
I absolutely hate that.
Yeah, I was like,
it's 2 National League teams playing in the World Series.
That's what I could see Milwaukee being in the National League, but for some reason I can't see the Astros, be considered American League. So I was sort of happy the Astros won. I think they're a pluckier team than the Dodgers. I think they were a little more fun to watch. But I thought the Dodgers, after I thought they were going to come back.
I know who Sports Illustrated was rooting for.
Yeah. Well, given the kind of series it became a memorable series, but for all the wrong reasons as far as I was concerned. I mean, we just talked about these 2 games, Game 2 and Game 5, which were off the board. I mean, in Game 2, there were 8 home runs.
Yeah.
And 5 of them came in extra innings. That's never happened in baseball before.
Right.
Regular season, playoff, or World Series. 5 home runs in extra innings? That's unbelievable. But that's what made this a memorable World Series.
Right, and I'm sure you disagree with the people who were, kind of the knee-jerk reaction is to call this the best World Series ever. When I heard that phrase started getting thrown around, I just shook my head. I'm like, no, it really is.
No, I covered the best World Series ever.
Which one was that?
1975, the Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox.
It was a good series.
That was a fabulous World Series.
I agree with you.
I also covered another World Series in 1972. Cincinnati and Oakland played 7 games, and 6 of the 7 games were decided by 1 run, and several of those 1-run games flipped in the last 8th or 9th innings. So to me, the drama of that World Series would be very hard to match.
So
it's a different kind of a World Series.
Yeah, right.
Because you had 1-run games. Every game was a 1-run game, and this World Series didn't have that. I mean, the deciding game was 5-1,
right.
And there was a letdown. It was a tremendous letdown for me that it was not a really tight game, tense game, which is what you want for Game 7.
Right. To me, the only drama in Game 7, and especially after the Astros took the early lead, was whether or not the Astros bullpen was going to be able to hang on to the lead.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's not the kind of drama you want in baseball.
Not for me.
I'll tell you what, the 72 World Series you were talking about, the only good thing about that from a writer's perspective is I assume most of the games were during the day.
Every game.
Yeah, so from a deadline standpoint, you don't really have to worry that much. Today's world, if a lead changes in the 8th or the 9th inning, reporters are scrambling to rewrite.
Well, and I certainly have sympathy for reporters because that's what I did for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But baseball doesn't care about that.
Oh,
baseball
no,
cares
of course
about
not.
the audience. Well, if you care about the audience, Game 5 of the World Series lasted over 5 hours and ended at 1:30 in the morning
right.
on a weekday morning. People have to go to work.
Yep.
People have to go to school.